This is the W5FC repeater, PL110.9.
everyone. This is just to let you know that Skynet will be starting on this repeater in about 5 minutes. So if you need to use the repeater before we begin at 9 o'clock, please do so now. This is your net control for Skynet, Virginia, in V5F.
W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Good evening, everyone. This is in V5F. My name is Virginia, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This week's weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to W5FC.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check into the net electronically by going to the club website, W5FC.org. Look for tonight's announcement and click on the hot link to check in. We will acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry, if you prefer to check in via voice, we will continue to do that as well, over the air or Echolink. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. First, we'll have general announcements. Next, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. After that, National Space Society events. Recent astronomical discoveries. Discussion topic of the evening. What's up? Space exploration and space history. Constellation of the week. Space launches of the week. Visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. And if time permits, astronomical Q&A and the 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. We currently have the following people checked in via W5FC.org. We have Tom, K5ICX in Corpus Christi. K5MCD, Cody in Dallas. Let's see, let me refresh this thing. Okay, there we go. Oh, thank you, pop-up thing. Thank you. That, alright, let's see. Next we have, sorry, this thing is not cooperating. Maybe that'll help. Okay, that helps a little bit. No, it didn't help much at all. Alright, hold on a second. I've got to get this. No, alright. Sorry, everybody. Alright, there we go. So we finished last with Cody, K5MCD. Next, Tony, NT5TM in Bird City. MV5F, Virginia, me in Fort Worth. AA5AH, Robert in Richardson. N5LIG, Dale in Dallas. WB5OZL, Brenda in Dallas. And then AG9SG, Antonio in Dallas. And KF5JHA, Bob the Cat and Chaz in Catland. And N5BB Bill in Irving. So it's quite a nice little group for our online check-in. Now let's start with some voice check-ins, starting with short-time check-ins. If you are a short-time check-in, please come now and give me your call sign, your name, and your location. Okay, nothing heard for a short time. Next, we're going to do general RF check-ins. Same thing. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay in the Jeep.
Kilo, Golf, 5, Uniform, Foxtrot, Romeo. Jacob, Farmers Branch.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, Gus, far northeast Dallas.
This is Whiskey
Bravo 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James, North Carrollton.
Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John and Coppell.
Okay, great. The net recognizes N5OF, Clay and Mesquite. KG5UFR, Jacob and Farmer Branch. W5GUS, Gus in Dallas. WB4MFI, Ted in Dallas. KG5WVL, James in Carrollton. And K5JDW, John in Coppell. And again, I am Virginia, NV5S, your net control for Skynet. Next, we have round 3, Echolink check-ins. If you are listening on Echolink and you would like to check in to Skynet, please come now. Call sign, name, and location. Okay, nothing heard from Echolink. Let's continue round. The last round is free-for-all. All check-ins, anywhere, any mode. If you'd like to get on the list for Skynet, please come now with your call sign, name, and location. Okay, nothing heard there, but I am going to add Jimmy. I did see him on Echolink. Let's see if we remember his call sign. KD5LQD. Jimmy, I've got you. And I think all the other folks I've seen on Echolink are people who've checked in elsewhere. So, put you on the list. Okay, well, let's get started. General announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or general interest to licensed hams. If you have an announcement, please come now.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Okay, Tony, go ahead with your announcement.
Good evening, Virginia. Tonight's Afterglow movie discussion will focus on Fantastic Voyage from 1966. You don't really have time to watch it, but you could always take a look. That's going to be at about 10 to 10:30, 10:35, probably about 10:35 tonight. Now, if you can't stay up that late, I understand maybe you were applying freeze protection to all your plants. This Monday's 7 p.m. net will be MCOM 101. That net is your chance to learn more about public service and emergency communications. You don't have to have any experience or be a member of any organization to participate. You just have to be interested. And a great reason to be interested in public service communications is because we have 2 major public service events coming up. Turkey Trot on Thanksgiving morning and the Dallas Marathon on December 14th. Sign-up information, either a form or a link to the form, can be found at w5fc.org for both events. Both events would love to have you. Lower Travis's blood pressure, contribute to his health and longevity. Sign up for Turkey Trot. NT5TM.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Yeah, it gets kind of busy in the fall. Looking forward to all the fun stuff that happens later in the year. And yes, sign up for Dallas Marathon and Turkey Trot. Okay, let's see, a couple of other standard announcements we have here. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 3 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Central, you can check into the National AMSAT net. Learn all about amateur satellites and how you can use them in amateur radio. The National AMSAT net will bring the most up-to-date information on amateur satellites currently in use or new ones coming online. You'll need Echolink installed, and you'll need to be registered on Echolink. You can find the net under Groups and asterisk, AMSAT asterisk. Also, a live audio link is available on their website, www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. 2 local nets are available in Dallas. Both these nets encourage active check-ins. You can ask questions of the net controls as well as the others who are checked in. AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.88 megahertz, PL zone 110.9. Tuesdays, these are on Tuesdays. Tom N5HYP is the usual net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is DARC Club Night, so no AMSAT Net East that night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington Club repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL zone 110.9, positive offset. The DARC also hosts a number of nets throughout the week. There is a lengthy list, many nights during the week. There are fun nets. There's also traffic nets every night here at 6:30. You can learn about traffic handling. Please go to DARC website, W5FC.org, for the complete schedule of nets. As Tony said, this coming Monday is MCOM 101. That's a really cool net where you can learn all about emergency communications, and all check-ins are welcome. Okay, this is Virginia NV5F, your net control for Skynet. And before we get to the next thing, I will take any additional check-ins to Skynet. If you're on any mode, anywhere, or come with your call sign, your name, and your location. Alrighty, nothing heard on the air, but I do have AB5DM, Dustin in Dallas, checked in over our online check-in thing, so thank you, Dustin. And next we'll get on to Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. This is with Chaz, KF5JHA, so take it away, Chaz.
Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. Let me see. I've got to get out my script here. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting is going to be on November the 21st. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and there's also a Zoom component. The featured topic and group is going to be the Astrophysics Special Interest Group, and they'll be talking about different astrophotography-wise. I'll be interested in that with my new C-stars. There's also the annual swap meet. If you've got something to sell or trade, you can bring it to the meeting. Now, past hosts, Saturday night public observing stations in the area. Skynet was fixed to be on Saturday nights so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas observing stations. On the second Saturday of the month, that would be tonight, the stargazing is held at Frisco. Is there anyone at Frisco, Star Party, a ham radio operator, that would like to make a report? Please come now with your call sign. Not hearing anything. Well, there's probably some things you can observe in the sky. Saturn is a great thing to see right now in the evening sky. The rings have been almost set on a little while ago, and there's still just a slight tilt to Saturn's rings. You can really see them through telescope. Saw them the other night. So, if you'd like to get more information, go to the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing stations. This is KF5JJ, back for net control.
Okay, thank you, Chad. Appreciate it. Next we have National Space Society events and activities with Bill N5BD. Tell us what's going on with National Space Society.
Well, thanks, Virginia. This is November 5, Bravo, Bravo. I happen to be the Vice President and the Membership Director of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. The National Space Society is a non-profit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. Our local NSS chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box and request access. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. The meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. The next meeting will be tomorrow, Sunday afternoon, November the 9th. The topic will be a presentation, which should be very interesting to hams. It's by Zhonghua Su, Associate Professor of Physics at University of Texas at Arlington, on When the Sun Gets Angry, Understanding Space Weather in Low Earth Orbit. I'll repeat that. When the Sun Gets Angry, Understanding Space Weather in Low Earth Orbit. Our meetings are also available virtually. Contact Bill N5BB if you'd like to attend. On the last Friday evening of each month, from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas chapter usually sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. The Friday, November 28th Space Rendezvous, that's right, the day after Thanksgiving, will be held at Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. We will have a Christmas holiday party in December, probably on the second Sunday of the month at my house here in Irving. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill, N5BD, at his QRZ listed email address or at space@byram.net. That's all I've got. Thank you very much, Virginia. This is N5BD.
Okay, thank you, Bill. And this is Virginia, NV5F, and you're listening to Skynet. Next we have Brenda, WP5OZL, with recent astronomical discoveries. So it's all yours, Brenda.
Thank you. This is WB5OZL, and let me queue up here. Our article is entitled Dark Matter May Be Lighting Up the Heart of the Milky Way. New findings suggest that dark matter could once again be the missing piece in one of astronomy's longest-running puzzles, the strange excess of gamma rays glowing from the Milky Way's core. By recreating the galaxy's turbulent early life and the massive collisions that shaped it, scientists discovered that dark matter near the center may be arranged very differently than once believed. This new configuration pattern, first seen by NASA's Fermi telescope, restoring dark matter as a strong candidate for explaining the Milky Way's glowing heart. The new study has breathed fresh light into one of the astrophysics' most persistent debates. What is causing the powerful gamma ray glow at the center of our galaxy? Led by Dr. Moritz Maru with Dr. Noam Liebeskind and Dr. Stefan Gottlober of the Leibniz Institute for Astrophysics, Potsdam, in collaboration with Professor Yehuda Hoffman of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem's Rakha Institute of Physics. I'm going to skip all the names. Their work uses advanced cosmological simulations to test whether dark matter, the invisible material thought to make up most of the universe, can still account for the surplus of high-energy radiation that first spotted by NASA's Fermi Gamma Ray Space Telescope. For more than a decade, scientists have wrestled with the so-called galactic center excess, an unexpected surge of gamma rays streaming from the Milky Way's heart. Early on, researchers suspected that dark matter particles might be colliding and annihilating each other, creating intense bursts of radiation. However, the observed pattern of gamma rays don't quite fit the expected shape of dark matter distributions. This discrepancy led many to favor another explanation: ancient fast-spinning neutron stars known as millisecond pulsars. To test the possibilities, the team turned to Hestia, a series of high-resolution simulations designed to model galaxies like the Milky Way within realistic cosmic environments. By retracing the galaxy's violent mergers and chaotic beginnings, the researchers found that these ancient events could have significantly altered the shape and density of dark matter in its core. Their results revealed a far more intricate, non-spherical dark matter structure than earlier models predicted, one that naturally reproduces the spread of gamma rays without the need to invoke large numbers of pulsars. The Milky Way's history of collisions and growth leaves clear fingerprints on how dark matter is arranged at its core, the researchers explained. When we account for that, the gamma ray signal looks a lot more like something dark matter could explain. Although the study doesn't end the debate, it reestablishes dark matter as a leading explanation for one of modern astronomy's most intriguing phenomena. Future observatories, such as the Cherenkov Telescope Array, capable of detecting even higher energy gamma rays, will provide sharper tests of those competing theories. These instruments could confirm whether the glow truly comes from dark matter or whether another cosmic process is responsible. This study gives us a fresh way to interpret one of the most intriguing signals in the sky, the team said. Either we'll confirm that dark matter leaves an observable trace, or we'll learn something entirely new about the Milky Way itself. That was from Science Daily. Back to that, WB5OZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Appreciate it. Nice article. You always bring the good dark matter news. Okay, this is my topic. I am the net control, so I have the honor of doing the discussion topic of the evening. I always try to find something fun, kind of historical, and this one jumped out at me. This is This Apollo-era radio telescope in North Carolina mountains once spied on Soviet satellites. Now it's for sale. So we're going to find out if that's true or if that's like a total clickbait headline. This is from space.com. This article was written by Brett Tingley. And let's see, here we go. Deep in the Appalachian Mountains lies a hidden piece of space history on a nearly 200-acre property tucked into the Pisgah National Forest near Rossman, North Carolina. A 26-meter, 85-foot radio telescope antenna points skyward, listening to signals beamed to Earth from spacecraft in orbit. First built in 1962 at a cost of $5 million, the facility began its life as part of NASA's Space Tracking and Data Acquisition STADAN program of ground stations. At the time, the NASA Rossman Satellite Tracking Station, or simply Rossman, was one of the most advanced ground tracking facilities in the world. Since 1998, the facility has been under private ownership and known as the Pisgah Astronomical Research Institute, or PARI. For decades, PARI has hosted on-site educational programming, stargazing parties, and summer camps. But a new chapter in the long, complex history of this remote ground station could soon begin. In August, the facility appeared on the commercial real estate market for $30 million. Local news outlets in western North Carolina reported the PARI is up for sale as an out-of-this-world opportunity. Like all things with the storied site, however, the truth is much more complex than what meets the eye. Tim DeLille is the director of education at PARI, and when he has been involved with the facilities, and where he has been involved with the facilities outreach program for over a decade. DeLille met me on the picturesque PARI grounds on a brisk early autumn day, just as the North Carolina foliage was reaching its peak fall colors. As we talked, the windy grounds in the shadow of the site's iconic 26-meter radio telescope, now known as 26 West, DeLille was quick to point out that PARI is not looking for the organization itself to change hands. We're not shutting down, we're not stopping operations, DeLille told Space.com. PARI, the organization, is not for sale. Instead, DeLille said PARI is looking to sell or lease a portion of the facility's buildings or its 192-acre grounds, ideally to someone who wants to continue the organization's mission of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math outreach. We wouldn't sell the whole facility to anyone who didn't value what we're doing, and whatever the agreement would be, they would have to carve out a space for us in that sale, DeLille said. We're looking for somebody who, having them here, sharing the site with us, would strengthen what we do, somebody who wants to complement what we do, somebody who's really excited about our education mission and is going to give us the funds and the flexibility to keep doing what we do. DeLille led us into a room where Lamar Owen, current Chief Technology Officer of PARI, was tracking a U.S. GPS satellite, GPS-3 SV06, which is named after Amelia Earhart. As we flew 26 west to keep custody of the satellite, Owen explained that PARI is sometimes contracted by commercial companies to help track spacecraft in medium Earth orbit and beyond. We actually did a track for one of these companies the Monday, 1 week after Hurricane Helene hit on October 7th last year. While we still had no power and while the site was still heavily damaged, Owen said, it was major. Owen then opened a screenshot from February 22nd, 2024, when Initiative Machine IM-1 lunar lander named Odysseus touched down on the moon in a historic first for commercial space flight. For some 15 minutes after Odysseus reached the lunar surface, mission controllers were unable to establish a signal with the lander, but Owen says that using 26 West, he was able to track the moon lander and determine why intuitive machines couldn't immediately latch onto Odysseus' signal. That's the intuitive machines lander about 10 minutes before anyone else picked it up, Owen said, pointing to a screenshot of its signal. I just didn't have any way of contacting them, saying reverse polarity, because the signal was bouncing off the surface and that reversed its polarity, Owen said. So we were not an official site to do this work, but we will often, when something interesting is happening, we'll often do it anyway, just to kind of build our portfolio to say, look, we did this. Because Perry's antennas are ideal for lunar communication, as the IM-1 track demonstrates, the facility has responded to a NASA request for information to help track the agency's Orion spacecraft as it journeys to the moon and back on the upcoming Artemis II mission. And here's the thing, Owen added, even if they don't pick us to do it officially, there's nothing to stop us from aiming a dish at Artemis and doing it anyway, because we can still receive the signal. So our plan is to make this a very public event, have schools come in and learn about what that is and what's going on. And it wouldn't be the first time Perry's dishes have helped track NASA spacecraft. From its onset, NASA's Rossmann Satellite Tracking Station was used to communicate and track some of the agency's earliest astronomical satellites, including the first successful space telescope, orbiting Astronomical Observatory 2, which launched in 1968. The facility also supported NASA's Applications Technology Satellite Program, which paves the way for today's weather satellites, cellular and broadband spacecraft, and even the GPS system. One of those satellites, Application Technology Satellite 1, or ATS-1, beamed home the first picture of the entire planet Earth from geostationary orbits in 1966. Rossmann would later be used to control ATS-1 as it served as the primary communications relay between President Richard Nixon and the Apollo 11 astronaut who had just been recovered onto the aircraft carrier USS Hornet on July 24, 1969. In 1975, during the historic Apollo-Soyuz mission that saw a U.S. and Soviet spacecraft dock in orbit in the first crewed international spaceflight, a satellite under Rossmann's control, known as ATS-6, provided ground control communications for the mission. But by the end of the 1970s, most of NASA's ATS satellites had been deactivated as more advanced spacecraft and instruments had been developed and launched. Other NASA satellite facilities, such as Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland, were also expanding and adding new capabilities that overlapped Rossmann. Shifting budgets and new priorities at NASA were making Rossmann obsolete. Rossmann's demise as a NASA ground station was inevitable and can be traced to years of NASA's budget shortfalls, workforce consolidation, and advances in technology that eliminated the need for a large global network of satellite ground stations, writes author Craig Crowley in the 2023 book, PISGA Astronomical Research Institute, An Untold History of Spacemen and Spies. By 1981, NASA had ceased operation at Rossmann. Then in July 1981, the U.S. Department of Defense's National Security Agency, NSA, took over the facility, renaming it the Rossmann Research Station. The site and what went on there immediately became classified and remains so to this day. There is a cryptologic history document, and we're in Book 5. Entire chapters are redacted in that book, said, except for the index. And in the index, you can see Rossmann Research Station is all over the place, but you can't read anything about it because every page that it's on is redacted. We now know, largely through Crowley's research, that the NSA's Rossman Research Station would go on to be used to spy on the Soviet Union's Lourdes Signals Intelligence Station near Havana, Cuba. Lourdes was the Soviet Union's most advanced signals intelligence facility and provided Moscow with around 70% of the intelligence data about the U.S., according to Growley. The Lourdes site could intercept secret phone and fax transmissions and signals sent from military and commercial satellites operated by the United States. It's not hard to see why the Rossman tracking station was such a sensitive operation. Owen, a lifetime Rossman resident, remembers a fairly steady military presence throughout the area during the NSA years to protect the sensitivity. You'd hear all kinds of things going on up there, all kinds of traffic. Every once in a while, things would get a little serious and guards would come around. The clandestine nature of the facility also led to plenty of misinformation around the area. Owen added, everything was a rumor. Oh yeah, and we kind of wink, nod to some of those. That's why we have the stuffed aliens, the little green men in there, he said, pointing to stuffed large-eyed gray aliens in one of the facility's waiting areas. People say there's aliens under the floor in an underground city or something. While Rossman's exact missions and its role in countering or monitoring the Soviet intelligence coming out of Lourdes is unknown, the U.S. government apparently felt the facility was vulnerable enough to warrant a reported $200 million investment in the mid-1980s to improve the site. Satellite dishes sprang up like mushrooms after a warm summer rain, Growley writes. But like mushrooms in the summer, the U.S. government's investment into Rossman Research Station would eventually dry up. By 1995, due to changing geopolitical tides, the U.S. government decided it no longer needed the facility. The NSA disassembled most of the site's dozens of satellite dishes and several buildings' worth of signals intelligence equipment, shredding a landfill's worth of documents in the process. This site was soon after turned over to the U.S. Forest Service and largely ignored for several years until a group of private investors with a love of space and science saw untapped value in the site. Led by engineer Don Klein, the group formed a non-profit foundation and purchased the site from the U.S. government in January 1999 after securing congressional approval. Since then, Perry has hosted thousands of students and adult visitors per year for hands-on educational programming, including summer camps. The facility operates dorm-style accommodations with an on-site cafeterias and luxury cabins, owns a wide range of telescopes, and an inflatable planetarium. Several weddings have been held at the site. The Visitor Center even operates an impressive mineral and rock collection that is home to dozens of meteorite samples, including from well-known strikes such as the Chelyabinsk meteor, which exploded over the Russian city in February 2013. But Perry is also home to active scientific research, both on its own and by partnering with academic institutions. We've got about a dozen instruments right now that belong to different universities. We've got some instruments that belong to a couple of government agencies, a few other research groups, DeLille said. For instance, one is an antenna that picks up the radio collars of migratory birds. So it's not yet astronomy, not just astronomy. We have an antenna for the Georgia Tech that picks up different types of lightning and electrical stuff in the atmosphere. Perry also hosts almost 500,000 astronomical glass plate negatives dating back to the mid-19th century. The collection is still being used in contemporary research. When Tabby's star was first a big thing, we were one of the groups who was able to look back at data about it at different periods in history and see that whatever it is doing, it's been doing it for a long time. We were able to confirm that this has been happening for, 3 or more, DeLille said. Perry even partnered with the European Space Agency to help build the data set to train Gaia observatories onboard AI using data from the facility's glass plate archive. But despite the site's contribution to astronomical research, DeLille stressed to Space.com that he wants to keep the original vision for Perry alive. One of the things that Klein had noticed throughout his life was that fewer and fewer kids were studying STEM fields, and this was before it was called STEM. DeLille said, and part of the reason why we founded Perry was to create those inspiring experiences. Once the space race was over, one of those big sources for inspiration kind of fell off. DeLille has been working for years to keep that inspiration alive, but funding has always been a challenge for Perry, he explained, particularly after COVID-19 pandemic temporarily halted the site's camps and educational programs. And it's not just Perry. Funding for space science across the United States is in a dangerous crossroads, and even some of NASA's most high-profile missions are in jeopardy of going dark. Still, DeLille remains optimistic about Perry's future, and he sees a possible path forward through partnering with the rapidly expanding private space sector. If there was a space company who came in and said, we want to buy the dishes and the buildings to operate them, but we'll still let you use them for education and outreach, we are open to that, DeLille said. If somebody came in here and wanted to build some data centers, we'd be up for that. If somebody came here who wanted to, have a research and development sort of branch here for space technology, we'd be up for that too. There's a lot of things that we'd be open to, right? What we don't want is to see this turned into a bunch of multi-million-dollar homes. Before leaving Perry's Visitor Center, Owen and I stood at the window next to 26 West control room where I used a remote control to slew the massive radio telescope. These are still useful instruments, and they're still in use and accessible to people who want to use them, Owen said as we watched the dish turn slowly from east to west toward the great Smoky Mountains in the distance. That's a piece of history. That's a working museum exhibit. End of article. I think that's a good one, and I say, who's up for a field trip to North Carolina? Okay, does anyone out there have any questions or comments for tonight's presentation? Please come now with your call sign. This is Virginia NV5F. Okay, nothing heard there. Do we have any more check-ins for Skynet? Please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location.
Kilo Juliet 5, Golf Oscar Tango, John in Dallas.
Okay, we've added KJ5GOT, John in Dallas. Thank you for joining us here on Skynet. Next we have What's Up with Chaz, KF5JHA. Take it away, Chaz.
Thank you, Virginia. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up because it's all about what has gone on astronomically over the last couple of weeks and what will take place over the next couple of weeks and beyond. So that was slide number 2. Did you know we have a video version of Skynet? If you go to our W5FC.org website and click on the YouTube version of Skynet, you can see the video version. Slide number 3, please. This is an image of Comet Swan that I just took last night with my Seastar S50. I did some imaging on the eastern shore of Lake Ray Hubbard last night. I did not get an image of Comet Lemon last night, but I hope to get one maybe tomorrow night, as long as the sky is going to cooperate with me. Slide Master, slide number 4. Another object that I captured was the Helix Planetary Nebula. A planetary nebula is what is the end of the lifetime of stars like our sun that will go through. There's a white dwarf at the center of the nebula. Actually, that magnitude is 13.5 of the the star at the center of the nebula of the helix, but I can see it on the image. Slide master, slide number 5. On this image, it's of the Cocoon Nebula, which is another nebula, and it's kind of complicated. It's an emission nebula, and a reflection nebula, and a dark nebula, all rolled into one. In slide master, slide number 6, this is a galaxy called M33 in the constellation of Triangulum. It's a close-by galaxy to our Milky Way galaxy. I was lucky, or maybe unlucky, to not just have one, but 2 airplanes fly by the field of view while I was taking the image. That's what the freaks are. Slide master, slide number 7. Now, we've talked about another predicted nova of the star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt at any time. It is currently at a brightness around 10th magnitude. I just checked it a little bit ago, which is much too faint to be seen with just our 2 eyes. T Corona Borealis was supposed to go nova more than a year ago. New predictions are November the 10th. That's in the next couple of days. Or on June 25th of 2026. Who knows when it's going to go off, but those are the latest predictions from one source anyway. But when it does go nova, T Corona Borealis could become as bright as the North Star. I can see the North Star, which is 2nd magnitude, with just my 2 eyes from a very light polluted location here in Mesquite, Texas. Slide master, slide number 8, please. The sun is very active. This image is from November the 6th from spaceweather.com. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large at times that you can just use your solar eclipse glasses to see them. The sun is near its 11-year solar maximum. We're not quite sure when the solar maximum will occur until after it happens. Now, I've talked about the solar cycle about 6 months ago on Skynet. The sun has been so active the last few days that it's sent out several X-class solar flares that resulted in some northern lights in the northern part of the United States. That complex is pointed right at us. If it goes off again, we might be able to get to see northern lights in Texas. Go to spaceweather.com to find out more details about that. I'd visit there every day if I were you. Slide master, slide number 9. The full moon was on November the 5th, so the current phase of the moon is a waning gibbous. Also on November the 5th, the moon was at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 356,833 kilometers. Third quarter moon is on November the 11th. That's Veterans Day, and that's on Tuesday. On November the 19th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 406,691 kilometers. New moon is on November the 20th. Slide master, slide number 10. This will be a marathon of several different things going on over the next couple of weeks. On November the 10th, the moon and Jupiter in conjunction in the morning sky. Slide master, slide number 11. On November the 11th, just after midnight, for the moon and M44, they're going to be in conjunction in the sky. Slide master, slide number 12. In the evening of November the 11th, the planet Mars and Mercury are in conjunction in the southwestern sky. Slide master, slide number 13. On November the 17th, the moon and Spica are in conjunction in the early morning sky. Slide master, slide number 14. On November the 18th, the moon and Venus are in conjunction in the early morning southeastern sky. That'll probably be during twilight, so you might need to get your binoculars out to get a better view of them. Although Venus and the moon are both kind of visible through that twilight. And slide master, slide number 15. On November the 21st, the moon and Mars are in conjunction in the evening southwestern sky. This is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 16. Now, do any of you out there in Waiting Land have a question, or maybe you need a fill on some information, or maybe you just have a general astronomy question? Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. All right, so is the moon, instead of these words for this Skynet segment, stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. And until next time, well, actually, I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JHA. This is Skynet transmitting on the W5FC repeater on 146.88 megahertz. Back to our net control. It's yours, Virginia.
All right, thank you, Chaz. Thanks for letting us know what's up. This is Virginia in V5F, your net control for Skynet. And next we have Space Exploration and History with Gus, W5GUS. Tell us some space exploration news.
Okay, thank you, Virginia. This is W5GUS with this week's space exploration news and space history. Did you know Jupiter's volcanic moon, Io, may be hundreds of times hotter than scientists thought? Well, using data from NASA's Juno spacecraft, scientists have discovered that the solar system's most volcanic body is even hotter than we thought. In fact, Jupiter's moon Io could be emitting hundreds of times as much heat from its surface as was previously estimated. The reason for this underestimate was due to a lack of data. It wasn't due to a lack of data, but it was a result of how Juno's data was interpreted. The result also demonstrates that about half of the heat radiating from Io comes from just 17 of the moon's known 266 volcanic sources. The team behind this research thinks that this clear concentration of heat, rather than a global emission, that an Io-wide lava lake may not exist beneath the surface of the moon of Jupiter as was previously been theorized. Quote, in recent years, several studies have proposed that the distribution of heat emitted by Io, measured in the infrared spectrum, could help us understand whether a global magma ocean existed beneath its surface. Team leader Federico Tosi of the National Institute for Astrophysics said. However, comparing these results with other Juno data and more detailed thermal models, we realized that something wasn't right. The thermal output values appeared too low compared to the physical characteristics of known lava lakes. Tosi continued by explaining that until now, studies of Io have focused heavily on a specific band of infrared light known as the M-band, the Mike band. M-band data collected by the Jovian infrared auroral mapper aboard the Juno have been invaluable in identifying the hottest regions of Io and thus for understanding its volcanism. But Tosi says the measurements collected in this special band could have influenced previous heat estimates. The problem, quote, the problem is that this band is sensitive only to the highest temperatures and therefore tends to favor the most incandescent areas of volcanoes, neglecting the cooler but much more extensive ones, he said. In practice, it's like estimating the brightness of a bonfire by observing only the flames and not the surrounding embers. That you capture the brightest spots, but you don't measure all the energy actually emitted. So reconsidering their approach to analyzing Juno's data changed the team's view of the structure of Io's lava lakes. They found that most of Io's volcanoes are not uniformly hot, but instead possess a hot and bright outer ring with a cooler, solid central crust. This later region is less bright in the M band of infrared light, but covers a larger surface area, allowing it to emit an enormous amount of heat. Quote, when this hidden component is also considered, the actual heat flux is up to hundreds of times higher than that calculated by analyzing the M band alone. He continued, this is a significant leap because it changes the scale of the satellite Io's energy balance. Okay, let's go on to space-related birthdays. There's only about 4 of them for this week. And no Americans. Let's see, 3 Ruskies and 1 Canadian. All right, November 3rd, 1952, Vladimir Vysetin. He was on Soyuz T-14. He was a Soviet cosmonaut who commanded the Soyuz T-14 mission to the Salyut 7 space station. The mission was cut short due to his developing a serious medical condition while in orbit. All right, and Roberta Bondar was November 4th, 1945. She was on STS-42. She was Canadian's first female astronaut and the world's first neurologist in space. Aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery, she conducted over 40 experiments in the International Microgravity Laboratory, focused on the adaptability of the human nervous system to low gravity. Okay, November 7th, 1944, Yuri Romanenko, Soyuz 26, 27, 38, and TM2. He was a Soviet cosmonaut, spent a then record 326 days in space across 3 missions, including 2 extended stays aboard the Salyut 6 and Mir space stations. He performed an EVA during his first mission. Okay, then Leonid Kazem, November 5th, 1941. Soyuz T-2, Soyuz T-10, 11, Soyuz T-15, and Mir EO-1. Also a Soviet cosmonaut, veteran of 3 space flights, commanded the first ever space mission to link up with 2 different space stations, which were Mir and Salyut 7, in a single flight. He holds the record for most EVAs completed in a single mission at that time. He held, I guess. Okay, that was the last birthday, so we'll move on. We've got a couple here in space history. Okay, the first crew to permanently inhabit the International Space Station, known as Expedition 1, arrived on November 2, 2000, the year 2000. So that's, 25 years ago. The crew, consisting of Commander William Shepard, cosmonaut Sergei Krikalev, and Yuri Gidzenko, arrived aboard a Soyuz TM-31 spacecraft. Their arrival marked the beginning of a continuous human presence in space that has lasted for over 25 years. During the stay, they activated the station's life support system and prepared the outpost for future cruise and assembly missions. The missions laid the groundwork for the ISS to become a hub for scientific research and international cooperation. Okay, on November 3rd, 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 2, which was the second artificial satellite and the first to carry a living animal into Earth orbit. The satellite carried a dog named Laika, a stray mongrel from Moscow, according to this. The mission was a crucial test to determine if a living organism could survive the stress of launch and microgravity. Unfortunately, the technology at that time did not allow for the safe return to Earth, and Laika died from overheating hours into the mission. Her sacrifice provided valuable data that paved the way for future human spaceflight. Okay, and the Mariner 10 probe. NASA launched the Mariner 10 probe on November 3rd, 1973, on a mission to explore the inner solar system. It was the first spacecraft to visit 2 planets on a single mission, utilizing a gravity assist from Venus to reach Mercury. Mariner 10 became the first probe to fly by Mercury, providing the first close-up images of its heavily cratered surface. The mission successfully mapped about half of the planet's surface and studied its atmosphere and magnetic fields. Its observations were foundational for our understanding of Mercury until a new generation of probes could return decades later. And that's the last item on this week's Space News and History. So we'll go back to net control and prepare for Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Back to you, Virginia, W5GUS.
Okay, thank you, Beth. And it is indeed Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. My name is Virginia. My call sign is W5FC. I am Skynet. But the Constellation of the Week is brought to you by Chaz, KS5JHA. So just a minute, Chaz.
Thank you, Virginia. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. Slide Master, slide number 18. This is Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. It's named in honor of Silent Key, Carolyn, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily seen visible constellations over Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total number of constellations. So Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation this week is a twofer, 2 constellations. Sculptor, the Sculptor's Workshop, and Phoenix, a very special bird. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Now, Slide Master, slide number 19. One of the most important things for Skynet, the jokes of the week. Okay, here we go. Did you hear about the explosion at the workshop where they made perfume? It blew up all over factory. Old factory. Blew up the old factory. That was a bad joke. What kind of music do elves listen to at Santa's workshop? Rap, of course. Why did every tool in the workshop want to be with the sandpaper? Because it was super fine sandpaper. What do you get when you touch a phoenix? A bird secretly burns. Phoenix throws out the ashes, you know, okay. What's a phoenix's favorite snack? firecrackers. Oh, come on now. All right, here's the last one. I thought of my days of misquoting popular idioms are over, but I'm like a phoenix rising from the molasses. Oh, maybe that wasn't that funny. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 20, please. The constellation of the Sculptor was originally named the Sculptor's Studio, or the Sculptor's Workshop. The original name has been since shortened to just simply Sculptor. Alpha Sculptoris is a very dim constellation, and Alpha is the brightest star. Alpha is having a magnitude of only 4.3 and has no proper name. The lack of bright stars in Sculptor is partly explained because, in fact, the south galactic pole lies within the boundaries of the constellation and is therefore far away from the plane of the Milky Way as possible, making stellar density very low. Alpha Sculptoris is a blue-white giant star and is a variable star. Alpha is located about 780 light years from the Earth. R Sculptoris is a variable star. Richard Allen, in his book Star Names, says R Sculptoris is described as an intensely scarlet variable and one of the most brilliantly colored stars in the heavens, with a period of variability of 5.8 to 7.7 magnitudes in 207 days. R Sculptoris is also a carbon star, which gives it its red color. Slide master, slide number 21. NGC, which stands for New General Catalog, number 253 is the Great Sculptor Galaxy, sometimes referred to as a silver coin or silver dollar galaxy. It was discovered by Carolyn Herschel in 1783. It's about 9.8 million light years away. Vernon's Celestial Handbook says that NGC 253 is one of the most prominent in the sky for small telescopes and probably the most easily observed spiral, with the exception of the Great Andromeda Galaxy of M31. Slide master, slide number 22. NGC 300 is a spiral galaxy. It's about 3.9 million light years away. It was discovered by James Dunlap and included in his 1827 catalog. NGC 300 is often called the Southern Pinwheel because it resembles M33 in its triangulum. I've shown you a picture of M33 earlier in the Skynet. It's also known as Double Pinwheel Galaxy 2. Stephen James Amiris writes that NGC 300 is visible as a roundish glow in 7 by 35 binoculars and from a clear sky, dark sky sight with unobstructed view of the southern sky. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 23. If I have an interruption in my transmission, Bob the cat is now wandering around beside me. Phoenix constellation lies in the southern sky. It was named after the phoenix, the mythical bird that rises from its own ashes. The mythical phoenix is known as the scarlet firebird. Phoenix constellation is easy to see for anyone in Australia and South Africa during the southern hemisphere summer, but generally it can't be observed by anyone living in North America of the 40th parallel, and lies pretty low south in the sky for observers north of the equator. But most of the constellation is above the horizon for North Texas. Phoenix is the 37th constellation in size and occupies an area of 469 square degrees. Alpha Phoenicius, also known as Anka, is the brightest star in the constellation. It is a spectral type binary star, approximately 85 light years in distance. The system has a combined stellar classification of K0.53b and has a combined apparent magnitude of 2.377. That's pretty exact. The two components in the system orbit each other in a period of about 3,800 days, about 10.5 years. The primary star, as the spectral classification indicates, is an orange giant. Beta Phoeniciae belongs to the spectral classification of G83 variable. It is a visual magnitude of 3.32 and is approximately 198 light years distance from the solar system. It is a binary star composed of two class G8 yellow giants with a parent magnitude of 4.0 and 4.1. The two stars orbit each other with a period of 168 years. Slide master, slide number 24. Roberts Quartet is a compact group of galaxies in Phoenix, approximately 160 million light years distance from the Sun, with a combined visual magnitude of about 13. The galaxies in the group are NGC 87, 88, 89, and 92. They are located within the area spanning about 75,000 light years. The four galaxies in the process of colliding and merging, they were first discovered by the English astronomer John Herschel in the 1830s. Slide master, slide number 25. The Phoenix cluster is one of the most massive galaxy clusters shown here. It is showing a lot of star formations actively at the high rate of recorded in the galaxy cluster and recent creation, 740 solar masses per year. That's a lot of stars every year. The cluster is also emitting more X-rays than any other known massive galaxy cluster. It is a supermassive black hole in the core of the system that is growing very rapidly and expanding at approximately a rate of 60 solar masses per year. Currently is 20 billion times the mass of our Sun. And this is KF5, JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 26. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the Constellations Sculptor and Phoenix. I've given you just a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 96 different observing programs. Most of them have about 100 objects in them. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide master, slide number 27. And that is Ms. Carolyn's Constellations of the Week. Sculptor, the Sculptor's Workshop in Phoenix, a very special bird. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I at times use the website constellation-guide.com for more information. So next week we'll take a look at Cassiopeia, the Queen. We'll talk about her myth once again next week. And this is KF5JHA. Chaz saying good night in 73. Back to our net control. Virginia, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Chaz. And I'm Virginia, 85F, net control for Skynet this evening. Before we continue, do we have any more check-ins for Skynet? If you would like to get on the list, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. Okay, nothing heard there. Next, we're going to move to Tom, K5ICX. He does our space launches of the week and our satellite passages. We usually do those two together. Also, Tom, I realized that in my haste to streamline some of the earlier bits of the net, I blew right past the Afterglow movie synopsis. So if you want to wrap up with that, that might be a good segue. into the very final bit of the net before we do the Afterglow. If you would care to add that to your other two things, feel free to do so. If not, no problem. Tom, back to you.
All right, thank you, Virginia. No harm, no foul. Okay, here we go. Space launches for this week. As you may have noticed, or maybe over the last couple of Skynets, slowing down a little bit on space launches. They are working towards, because the FAA has to clear space for launches out of Florida and Texas and California. They are allowing, or will be changing over to night-only launches. I'm not sure how that plays out for all the mechanics that are needed for orbital mechanics, but that's what they're saying. So there's been a little bit of a slowdown. NASA still is in business, but they're at a very reduced rate with only certain things being funded, but most of the office is closed. But here we go. We have on, oh my goodness, how did I end up with a November 2nd? Well, I'm going to get through this, and a 4th. Well, guess what? I do not have the right dates here. I got November 2nd and 4th. I don't know why. So we're just going to skip that, and we're going to go to the satellite passages coming up. These come from spaceheavensabove.com. I'm going to give it in a simplified format, trying something a little different this week. We got November 8th, that's tonight. Well, there was a launch of the International Space Station. This one was at 5:28 and 5 p. And we have another one on November 9th. Here we go. It's a new format for me, so I'm a little disoriented too. So November 9th will be a 5-minute visibility. This is at 5 p.m. out of the west. This is for Dallas residents. The highest point will be at 26 degrees out of the north-northwest, and it will fall at 5:05 to the north-northeast. The magnitude is considered bright. November 10th, we have a 4-minute pass, 5:27 p.m. out of the northwest, 42 degrees out of the north-northeast. It will fall to the east at 5:31. It's considered very bright, so minus 2 point something magnitude. November 11th, a 6-minute pass, 6:15 in the evening out of the west. It'll be almost overhead at 88 degrees. It'll fall to the 6th at 6:21 p.m. to the east-southeast. Extremely bright, like it looks like an airplane going over. It's that bright. November 12th, 5-minute pass. That's at 5:47 p.m. out of the northwest, 49 degrees. That's a nice pass. And it'll fall to the east-southeast at 5:52. Very bright. November 13th. This will be a 3-minute pass, a little bit lower in the sky, 6:15 p.m. in the north-northwest. Reach its highest point at 25 degrees. It will fall to the east at 6:18. It's considered bright. November 14th, 5-minute pass, 6:42 p.m. out of the north-northwest. Be at 33 degrees at its highest point, and it will fall to the east-southeast at 6:47. November 15th, a 3-minute pass, 7:10 p.m. When advancing into the evening, 16 degrees, so it's going to scoot relatively low on the horizon. It'll fall to the east-southeast at 7:13. That one is considered technically faint. Next up is the Tiangong Space Station, which, by the way, if anybody had noticed, we have 6 tachyonauts up there. 3 of them are currently stranded. There was I think we mentioned this last week, but there was something that hit one of the spacecraft, the Shenzhou spacecraft, and they are evaluating the damage to it, micrometeorite or some sort of space debris, to see if there's anything that they need to do. So they're holding back, bringing them back right away. There are reserve supplies on the space station. So let's see here. We have November 10th. We have a 9-minute pass at 5:59 p.m. at 59 degrees. It'll fall at 6:08 p.m. It's considered bright. November 11th, 6-minute pass, 5:37 p.m. 21 degrees. It'll fall to the east-northeast at 5:43. Very faint, it says. November 12th, 9-minute pass. That's pretty good. 6:24 p.m. out of the west-northwest to reach its highest point at 64 degrees in the east. It'll fall to the east-southeast at 6:33. That one's considered bright. November 13th, 3-minute pass, 6:02. This is very low on the horizon. Reach its highest point at 11 degrees. It'll fall at 6:05. Be very faint to the east. November 14th, 9-minute pass. This is a goodie. 6:49 p.m. This one will be at 65 degrees at east-southeast to fall to 6:58 p.m. to the southeast. Very bright. And then finally, November 15th, 6 minutes pass. This is at 6:28 p.m. This is about 21 degrees. This one will fall to the southeast at 6:34. It's considered very faint. So there you have it. You can go to heavensabove.com, get additional information on these and all satellites, including amateur radio satellites. If you want to do a little bit of contacts via VHF, UHF, you can do so and use this same site to find the amateur satellites as they go over. No special software required. Back to you, Virginia. This is KE5 ICX.
All right, thank you, Tom. Well, appreciate all that good information. And we're doing okay on time. Do we currently have any additional check-ins before we finish out Skynet? Please come down with your call sign, your name, and your location. Okay, nothing heard. Well, let's see. We have a couple of minutes left. Do we have anybody who needs to fill or who has any general astronomical questions? Please come now. Okay, nothing heard there. I'm guessing everybody's just really excited to get to the Afterglow movie in a little while, and our Afterglow movie tonight is fantastic Voyage, about tiny, tiny submarines, tiny microscopic people in a tiny microscopic submarine, and injected into a human scientist. So very exciting stuff. Cool special effects. Okay. And do we have any, for the end of Skynet, do we have any final check-ins or comments for the net? Please come now. Alrighty, well, tonight we had 19 bands participating on the air. Thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope that you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of our net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussions about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is NV5F. My name is Virginia, and I will be closing this net at 10:26 local time, and returning the repeater to normal amateur use for a few minutes. We will begin the Afterglow net probably in about 5 minutes. You'll have a chance to run and get some popcorn, and we'll be back here at around 10:30 or a little after that to discuss fantastic Voyage. So that's the end of the Skynet. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great night. This is Virginia in D5F.
NV5F, NV5F from W5GUS.
W5GUS, NV5F.
Hey, Virginia, did you get my email by chance I sent today?
Yes, I did. Thank you very much. I appreciate that information.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you got that. Good. All right, that was it. I was wondering also, I don't know, probably did not have it in there, but the section you read this evening said that they named the site after Amelia Earhart or something about Amelia Earhart. Did it mention why or what that was that was a tribute to Amelia Earhart at that astronomical site?
No, it said they were tracking. It was giving an example of one of the things they do there, and they were tracking a GPS satellite, and I guess all those separate satellites. There's quite a few of them, and I think each one of them has like a kind of a nickname or a tribute name, and the particular one they were tracking had been named in tribute to Amelia Earhart.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thanks for that explanation there. I was wondering what it was. Okay. Well, thanks. We'll catch you later. NV5F, W5GUS.
Okay. Thanks, Gus. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you later. D5F.
Normal state.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow movie net.
Okay, well, it's that time, and we're about to begin the Afterglow Movie Net. Tonight's movie is a big budget film from 1966 called Fantastic Voyage. It actually won 5 Academy Awards when it came out in 1967 is when the awards were awarded. All of them technical. I think for audio, best audio, and special effects mainly, and then some of the variations for that. This is an interesting film. I have to say, I'm old, so I saw this movie in the theater in Cinerama, which was really cool back then, and I really enjoyed the film. Plus, going to the movie was a real treat. You had to go downtown to see it on a really big screen, so I did indeed see that at the, I think it was, I think all the little goofiness that just stopped to the All-Star link is over. Anyway, very good film, I thought, as far as the special effects and everything. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the film. Let's see, the film was an original idea by Otto Clement and Jerome Bixby. Jerome Bixby, you may remember from writing some of the most memorable scripts from The Twilight Zone and Star Trek, the original Star Trek, as well as several original motion pictures. They sold it to Fox, which announced the movie would be the most expensive science fiction film ever made. When Chief Fleischer was assigned to direct and Sal David to produce, both men had worked in the studio before. Fleischer had originally directed medicine and human anatomy in college before choosing to be a film director. How about that? Harry Kleiner was brought in to work on the script. The budget was $5 million, and then it went up to 6, 3 of which went to the sets and 1 on test footage. A Proteus submarine, that's pretty cool, was constructed as a full-size set piece, 42 feet long, as seen in the miniaturizer room, and later in scenes set outside the long and inside the inner ear. When the cast was to have been swimming, actually suspended by wires outside the submarine. Full-size Proteus mock-up contained all the interior sets, and actors are seen in to represent the interior of the submarine, with sections that pulled out to allow for cameras and crew to film the interior. The submarine was also constructed in miniature, including a large miniature around 5 feet in length and could be flown on wires in abstract sets representing the inside of the human body. The heart and brain sets built to accommodate the 5-foot miniature filled the sound stages at Fox Lot. These were filmed dry for wet, with floating blob-shaped elements meant to be blood cells filmed separately and composited over the footage. A smaller 18-inch miniature of the Proteus was constructed to operate in liquid for a shot on the submarine bursting through the arterial wall early in the film. The tiny Proteus miniature, just a few inches in length, was made for the miniaturization sequence to show the ship being picked up by a, quote, precision handling device, end quote, and dropped into a large glass cylinder that was then miniaturized to become part of the syringe that would inject Proteus into the brain injured scientist. Film starred Stephen Boyd, making his first Hollywood film in years. Raquel Welch, in her first role for Fox, was put on her contract after being spotted in a beauty contest by Saul David's wife. For technical and artistic elaboration on the subject, Fleischer asked for the collaboration of 2 people on the crew that he'd worked with on production of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And if you watch the film, it sure had a feel for 20,000 Leagues. If you compare these 2 films, which he directed for Walt Disney in '54. Designer of the Nautilus from the James Jules Verne adaptation, Harold Goff, also designed the Proteus. The same technical advisor, Fred Zander, collaborated on both productions, and boy, did the Nautilus look good. Not the Nautilus, but the Proteus, the Proteus ship that was used in the film. Well, Nautilus looked pretty good, too. At one point in the film's pre-production, it was positioned as one of Derek Flint's spy spoof films with James Coburn. That was all the thing back then, a knockoff of 007, and did get pretty good box office return. So using this as a script for the Flint movies was not a stretch as it may seem today. Some of Flint's wisecracks about not wanting to be miniaturized survived to be uttered by Boyd Grant in Fantastic Voyage. Years later, comic actor Mike Myers proposed Voyage, in which Austin Powers would be injected into the body of Dr. Evil. Doggone, wouldn't it have been great to have seen that. At any rate, he goes on and talks about some other things in the film. Music by Leonard Rosenman, which is a great composer, and I think in the film it was well worthy of the film. Got mixed reviews, although it did get a 90% approval rating in Rotten Tomatoes with 35 reviews, and an average rating of 7 of 10. It still holds up, and its imaginative journey into the human body is what they say, but the special effects are a little bit dated. Metacritic uses a weighted average to assign the film a score of 72 out of 100. So there you have it. It lost money at $94 million in total cost. It made $8,880,000. Anyway, hopefully you heard that. Things going wonky again. Okay, so what's the story? They miniaturized a submarine and put it inside of this guy's body who had an accident, very important diplomat, and had to do brain surgery. They go in, they do the brain surgery, lots of bad things happen. There's a bad guy on board, they kill him. Donald plays in case you were wondering, spoiler alert, and they managed to get picked up and then dropped into the miniaturizer thing, because after 60 minutes, exactly 60 minutes in fact, the miniaturized process would reverse itself on its own. So that's it. That's the whole plot. There's no reason for me to read it outside of all the silly little things, side things that happen that really don't add anything to the film. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. I will start with check-ins, and I will ask for your call sign, your name, and did you see the film? If you didn't, that's okay. You can still check in. We'll start with talking about the plot, then we'll talk about characterization, then we'll talk about technical effects, which there are many. So let's go ahead and get started. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see tonight's movie, 1966, Fantastic Voyage.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony and Dallas. Yes, I saw the movie.
November Victor 5, Fox, Virginia. I did see this movie, and now I'm trying to imagine little Tom going down to the cinema with his whole allowance to buy his Cinerama Roadshow ticket of Fantastic Voyage in D5F.
Okay, well, let me another one of these. I got NT5TM, that's Tony and Dallas. Yes, she saw the film. NV5F, Virginia. Yes, she saw the film. And I remember now, it wasn't the Fox Theater. It was Music Hall, which I used to go to. I'd see some tickets from Music Hall later on. They tore out the big Cinerama screen and returned it as a regular live theater back in the day. And I spent many performances at that theater, and then also when it was a movie theater. It was great watching it. I saw 2001 there as well. Okay, anyone else want to check in? Come on, folks. Where are you guys? Let's go. Tonight's movie is Fantastic Voyage from 1966.
Kilo, Juliet 5, Golf, Oscar 10.
Okay, I think I got one more, and then I got Brenda having internet problems again. KJ5GOT, I think it is. I should recognize that call. Can I get your name? And did you see tonight's movie? And correct me if I got your call sign wrong.
I did not.
Okay, you are cutting in and out. I think it's you because the carrier's dropping. The signal is strong, but you're dropping. Check your mic connection or push the talk or something. Try one more time.
KJ5GOT, John in Dallas.
Oh, good. I got you that time. KJ5GOT, John in Dallas. And John, did you get a chance to see your film?
I did not see the...
All right, no problem. I'll just put you in. I'm glad you checked in. It's always nice to know when folks are out there. I'll give you a quiz later on, see if you think this is a film that you would like to see from 1966. And I got Brenda, WB5OZL. She is now checked in on Echolink. Brenda, you want to give it a shot, see if you're able to communicate with us over on Echolink. Try now.
This is WB5OZL, Brenda in Dallas. I did see this movie, and I assume Echolink is working properly now. It went to sleep or something, or fainted. It's back now.
Yeah, you're fine now. You sound good and a solid signal, so we got you. Okay, anyone else want to check in? Tonight's movie is Fantastic Voyage from 1966. Okay, well, it'll be another small group. Not sure what's happening, but we'll go with who we've got. I got the core kids here, so we'll start with Tony, NT5PM. Tony, what did you think about Fantastic Voyage from 1966? We're talking plot right now.
Okay, well, first I want to mention a bit of movie trivia. This was touched on in the Wikipedia article, but I know a little bit more about it from a primary source. Isaac Asimov was hired to write the novelization of this movie, and he felt so irritated and constrained by having to write a novel that matched the screenplay that he wrote a separate kind of obscure novel called Fantastic Voyage 2, Destination Brain, which I made a point of finding so that I could, have that for my bedtime reading tonight if I can stay awake that long. I don't know. I just don't have enough Isaac Asimov novels in my collection. I feel sad about that. They've gotten kind of hard to get. But so the plot of this movie. First, a general summary. I would recommend everyone watch this movie at least once. They tried so hard and they meant so well. The things I don't like were largely my own fault. thought the movie was kind of draggy in a lot of places, kind of like Star Trek the Motion Picture, because they were so proud of their visual effects, which we'll talk about later. Not knocking the visual effects, just saying they were so proud of them. They wanted to give us extra time to watch, and that slowed the plot down. So, okay, that's a problem. I love Star Trek the Motion Picture, too, even though I admit how ridiculously slow it is. The thing I liked most about the plot was the psychological, well, not even psychological, just the generic realism that in a Cold War spy thriller, you're not going to have a lot of gunplay and violence and explosions and diesel fuel going off. Spies don't work that way. I liked the idea of quiet sabotage. Yeah, we all know it's Donald Pleasance, because what is he playing, right? But still, you have this idea of the characters don't know who it is. I did like that idea of not the overt giant diesel fuel explosions, but, you know, just a little bit of realistic Cold War spy versus spy. We've got a saboteur here. We don't know who it is. We don't know who we can trust. So I like that they touched on that. Also like that they did try to keep with the, you know, once the 60-minute clock starts, the movie only does have about an hour left. They probably fudged that a little bit in places. They didn't keep exact track, but I was proud that they didn't make the last, you know, 10 seconds of the movie last half an hour of screen time, as a lot of action movies like to do. It's like, wait a minute. Sorry, radio problem. Wasn't the last, like, 10-second timer on the bottom up like a minute ago? No, they didn't do that. So, I liked the lack of overt, you know, giant warfare. I liked the having a saboteur. I liked the having spies. I enjoyed the Cold War tension. I enjoyed that one of the Aristotelian unities, the unity of time. I still thought it dragged on them. They gave us way too much time to enjoy their visual effects. I didn't like that part so much. Another plot hole I'd like to hit on, the lack of swim fins. I was really looking forward to this scene, and this wasn't just so I could look at Raquel Welch, of like all the characters in scuba gear with their fins on, like swimming around a neuron or something really cool. And they didn't get those fins. They're wearing these big heavy tanks, and they don't have fins on. I don't even go snorkeling without fins. Man, that was a plot hole to me. Why couldn't they have fins if they were intending to go EVA? Anyway, NT5TM, back to net.
Hey, very good. Thank you, Tony. Yeah, that was something, I haven't watched this movie in years, and that was one of the first thing that I noticed when they were outside. Where are the swim fins? Same thing with me. I thought that looked kind of strange, but when you consider the fact that they're being hung by wires and everything, and the fact that they let them down off the wires and they got to walk around on that uneven set, I would think that's why there are no swim fins, or they just simply forgot to use them. Who knows? Okay, thank you, Tony. Next up is Virginia, ND5F. Virginia, what did you think of the plot? The Fantastic Voyage from 1966.
Okay, the plot. Well, cool basic idea. Now I'm going to have to ignore the fact that I've seen the movie Inner Space like a bajillion times. It came out like 20 years after this movie. And, I mean, cool idea for a plot. The saboteur thing, I think could have used a little more resolution, a little more clarity, maybe a little bit more dramatic irony for the audience would have been good. And I agree with Tony. There was a little bit of slowness in the execution of the plot. I joked that we should have had a lot of Strauss waltz music to go with some of that, especially early on. I would rather have had the hour that was almost in real time, as was mentioned. I would rather have had the action be more dense at the end of that hour, but they just kind of got to the end of that time lock, and then suddenly the movie was over. They suddenly found a convenient, we're in the brain, so let's go over to the optic nerve and find that, and somehow immediately get from there to his tear duct, and the guys outside immediately somehow figure out that they've ditched the submarine, and that, I don't know, they just seem to figure out what's going on without them transmitting any messages, because they couldn't transmit messages after a certain point. And there was a little bit of convenience in the ending. It just ended too abruptly, I thought. Which, I mean, movies a lot of times would end more abruptly back then. They didn't have as much anticlimax as they do now. But this was, I don't know. And I also wonder if the miniaturization process begins to reverse after 60 minutes, wouldn't that include the two dead dudes and the submarine that were left behind inside the guy's body? Seems like a problem. I do like that when they made Inner Space, they did away with some of the more convenient or implausible things. Probably replaced them with a few more convenient and implausible things. But anyway, I thought some of it was a little bit, I thought the time lock itself was a little bit, it was a little bit gratuitous. Oh, well, we need a time lock. Well, let's just say that the miniaturization just, for no apparent reason, wears off after a certain amount of time. So I didn't necessarily like that as a way of introducing a time constraint. But back then, I think people would have just gone, yeah, sure, I found it a little bit convenient. Overall, yeah, cool, pretty good plot. It had lots of cool, educational stuff about the human body in it, which I found interesting. And overall, I think pretty good. I think there were just some things that could have been more clearly explained or more played out, less up front, less time used up, less budget used up in the front end of the movie, and a little more protracting of the plot at the end, so we could see maybe a more reasonable conclusion to how they get out and how they figure out who's the bad guy and all that. It just seemed everything kind of resolved all at once, and you're looking up going, what just happened? Is it over? But yeah, overall I liked this. I thought it was pretty cool, and I think it was pretty well done overall, paced generally a little slow, but I also consider the fact that things were, they were kind of slower. Some plots were simpler, and they would put them in a big screen format, and they'd make the movie last a long time, so it'd be a big extravaganza. And if it wasn't a musical or an epic, then, they had to do something to make it last a long time. So, anyway, pretty good plot. Liked it, generally liked it pretty well. Back to net in V5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. And yes, you found the big plot hole, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit because there was a solution to that problem. Next up, KJ5GOT. John, I'm going to skip over you right now because I want you to mull over everyone's comments, and I'll be back to you in a little bit. See what you think, if this is a film that you would want to see. so you jump over to Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda, you saw it last night. Oh, you did not see the movie. You slept through it. You did say you saw the film, so, okay. You didn't see any of our comments because you were fast asleep. But what did you think of the film, plot-wise, from KD5 ICX?
This is WB5OZL. Yeah, I was not feeling well last night. I was just going to take a little nap and slept through a little arm and slept through the night. And so I missed our movie date. But because I have no life, I went back and read all the comments anyway. Because you guys are funny. I did watch it. I watched it this evening, the whole thing, in real time. And I did like it. I didn't see it first run. I'm pretty sure I didn't, and I don't know why. Because I was in a movie-going age. I just, you can't see everything. Anyway, these people have the worst luck. I mean, if things could go wrong, they would. They did. This is like Murphy just going berserk. Every time you turn around, something breaks. And I didn't think these people were sufficiently trained for this mission. It's like, pick you up, let's go, get in the sub, and here you go. And they should have been trained on the equipment a little better and the procedures. But, oh well, they managed. It is a fascinating concept. And I was thinking, if this poor guy died there if one of these guys dies inside this guy's body, is that kind of creepy? A tiny dead person inside you? Could you have a funeral? I don't know. I would be kind of creeped out by that. Echolink does not like me tonight. Anyway, a lot of really good actors. I thought the music was great too, but I'm not familiar with the composer. But I thought it was very appropriate. It helped to build the tension, I think. Yeah, I had a procedure 2 years ago where my lungs were full of blood clots, and they went in a big artery with these tubes and went through my heart and into the lungs to suck the blood clots out. And so this movie kind of hit home with me of what they can do with and what they do with the stents now, to save people's lives, putting these little stents in the heart. And I know it's not miniaturization of people, but the miniaturization of the medical equipment is just amazing. So anyway, I just kept thinking about that through the movie. Just personal story. All right, back to Net.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Good comment. All right, we're at the bottom of the list. I'll ask if there's anyone out there who would like to check in. Tonight's movie is Fantastic Voyage from 1966. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign and name. Did you see the film?
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this movie. Hope I'm getting okay. I'm getting a lot of popcorn tonight for some reason.
All right, very good. We got Sean, KB9SOK. So, Sean, you're up. Tell us about what you thought about the plot for our fine film.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, I actually did see this many years ago. I did see it at the theater. Wasn't quite in existence yet then, but I did see it when I was fairly young and remember liking it then. But I haven't really seen it since then. So it was kind of interesting to watch it again last night. Of course, we've had a lot of remakes since then, and I'd forgotten a lot of the scenes from this. Overall, I did like it. But I agree, the plot holes everybody's already brought up. There are quite a few, which I guess watching as a kid I never really noticed, but watching as an adult you do. It kind of takes you out of it. I do agree. It is kind of slow-paced. Their explanation of why the submarine did not return back to normal size, or the guys that was left in there, was they insinuated that the antibodies attacked the sub, and they showed the sub being dissolved. And the problem I got with that is even though I guess they tried to explain it, once again, the sub was made out of metal and glass and all kinds of things. I don't think it'd be able to dissolve it. After all, they do put metal objects in your body, and your body sometimes does try to attack them, but it doesn't dissolve them. So, yeah, I've got a big problem with that. Yes, this end I thought was also a good one that was brought up. Yeah, no wonder they couldn't hardly move around. But I'm not sure why they overlooked that one. So yeah, and then I don't know why they went through the whole mess of, the nuclear power and, bringing on the isotope. You could have just said the thing's running on batteries. That seemed like kind of a waste. I do think the plot of the Sculptor was a nice twist, but unfortunately it was very easy, very early on to figure out who it was. So it really was no big surprise. And then, yeah, I do think that, obviously it was our up to the big plot hole, them magically figuring out where the, I don't know what you call people who explore this inside of your body, doctors, would come out the eye. Seemed a little too convenient for me. And then I was thinking the whole time there, Dan, I was like, why did they even need to send doctors in? After all, they brought this laser and just to cut away the clot. And I'm thinking, really? Didn't seem like a lot of precision was needed there. I think they could have just took an axe with them and probably cleared out the clot. I'm not sure they really needed a laser or really a doctor. Maybe a doctor helped them get through the body, of course. But and then that was my other biggest plot hole I had with this, was the fact that they seemed to magically be able to go from, out of the veins, back into the veins. They went through the inner ear, then, they went into the brain, and then somehow or another they made it to the eye duct, and, just a lot of really convenient, not really explaining how they were doing that. Yeah, so, they definitely, it feels like there was definitely some pretty big plot holes as far as that goes. Seems like there was one other really interesting one, but can't think of it now off the top of my head. But yeah, even with all that, it was still kind of enjoyable. I liked, like Virginia said, I liked the concept. For that time and era, I thought it was pretty interesting, ideal. So yeah, it's definitely different than, a lot of the repeats of science fiction that we'd seen over and over and over. So I'll give it to that. It was a pretty original idea for the time, and they probably thought one day we'd build, maybe even do something like that. But yeah, the whole time thing was weird too. Why only an hour? And yeah. Anyway, that's all I got for this round. Back to that KB9SOK.
Okay, good. Thank you, Sean. All good comments, everyone. So now I've got my comments. First off, addressing the issue with the submarine and the dead bodies. Isaac Asimov, when he wrote, and I read the book, I was a huge Isaac Asimov fan back then. Well, I still am, but he's gone now. But when the book came out, I went, of course, and I bought it and read it. And I'd seen the movie first, and I bought the book later on. But he fixes the problem by luring the white blood corpuscles to the surface of the eye. They use themselves as bait, and it drags along the bodies and the submarine into the eye, and they extract the whole thing onto the onto the platform there. I was always thinking, even as a kid, I thought, this is really stupid. Why the heck would they leave the bodies in there? They got dissolved. Well, matter is matter. It's going to grow back to its original size, I would think. And that seemed to me that it didn't matter. And if there was one little piece that it didn't absorb, for example, it would kind of leave this big, gaping metal submarine piece in the middle of this guy's body, and he's dead, right? Or the whole thing just grows back to full size, and the submarine bursts through the operating room because it's not as big as the platform that it was sitting on, and all that. I just kind of thought, they should know better on something like that. But that's how they did it, and it was a convenience. The other thing that was strange was, another thing too, from a technical, not a technical standpoint, but from a plot contrivance. What was the deal with all the golf carts? Jeez. They kept telling us this is a large facility. Yes, we know it's a large facility. You got 500 golf carts and a traffic cop out there taking care of the traffic going in and out. Where are all those people going? Why don't you just miniaturize the facility so people could get there, and have to spend so much time in the golf carts driving everywhere? That was just strange. And then when they go and they take the Imperial and drop it down in the elevator, that looked really cool. But then they get on the golf carts and they go back up the thing. So just get out at it looked like they took them way down into the building, and then they get on the golf cart thing and they go back up those levels. So just take them in through the main entrance, have them sign in like a normal person, and I don't know, put them through the secret bookcase door or something. And why the whole thing? Just put them in an elevator with a couple of people like normal people. That no, we got to move the whole car there. And then, by the way, since it's a secret entrance, people are going to notice you building that big elevator thing outside. I don't know, just kind of weird stuff that didn't make any sense to me. Let's see, what else? And by the way, with all of the carts and everything, it was pretty obvious that this thing was filmed inside of a parking garage, a big one too. So this big expensive center is nothing more than a giant parking garage with some props in it. But that's just me, I guess. Let's see, what else? The fact that the movie is an hour and 40 minutes long. But it was an hour and 40 minutes, like 20 minutes more to go or so, or at least 10 minutes more to go, maybe for character development, but there was none. We didn't really know and learn anything about the characters per se, except we knew that the bad guy was Donald Pleasance. Well, of course, he's Blofeld in the 007 movies, so we knew he had to be the bad guy. The bald guys with the cat are always the bad guys, and that he didn't have a cat, but I don't know. Maybe he did. He just had it in the cat carrier, and we just didn't see it. That would have been the real giveaway if he came on board the submarine with his cat carrier and had little Fluffy. So, who knows? There you have it. Okay, so I've said my piece, and none of the characters had any background or were very interesting at all, although usually character development in this thing, and it just felt kind of strange. And then when it ended, and I think Virginia mentioned it last night, it just ends at the weirdest time, and I go, okay. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy the film. I enjoyed the film a lot. I think it's a fun film to watch, but it seemed kind of just abrupt in its ending and kind of simplistic in its plot contrivances. Although there are some scenes, where everything falls apart. It's a really bad operation. It's almost as bad as Alpha Control with Lost in Space. Everything went wrong with that brand new spaceship in the first 10 minutes of the film, and everything was substandard, like the little tie line for the astronauts that broke like 10 seconds after they hook it up. It's brand new. It's still got new tether smell, and it already fell apart. Well, that's what this one felt like. Very much the same thing. All right, let's move on to characterization. And can you name the famous star and the bit role in this? That's your quiz question for tonight. So we'll start with Tony, NT5TM. You're up. Characterization from KE5ICX.
I wish Erin had watched the movie because she is a walking movie database. But no, I can't. I'll never know. Someone's going to have to tell me. I cannot guess who is the famous star in a tiny role. Oh, I'm getting sleepy. So, rule 2, characters. I could tell them all apart. The characters were very strong within the context of the movie. I was proud that everyone was not impossibly beautiful. We would have to believe in a modern movie in the 21st century that Tom Cruise, big biceps, was a famous neurosurgeon or something like that. They didn't try to make us believe that, so points for that. But the but is, of course, as Tom, you just alluded to, who are they and why are they here? We can tell them apart. That's great, but I can tell apart all the people I see in my morning dog walk. Why are they here? Why these people? Why not some other people? And I'd like to nominate as honorary characters the corpuscles. That's not a word that was common after World War II. I don't know who wrote this, but corpuscle or corpuscle was just a word that meant a packet of something. People in the pre-relativity days referred to corpuscles of light. It just means a packet. By the time this movie came out, we said red blood cells and white blood cells, and they were all classified. Ooh, an erythrocyte. Ooh, a polymorphonuclear cell. Ooh, this, that. The various tissues and cells should have been better characters. I think it was Sean who said this, but I'm not sure, so apologies to whoever invented this. But the epithelia should have been characters, too. Whenever the human body needs to draw a boundary line between something and something else, a kidney and a liver, the human body makes an epithelium, a layer of cells that divide one thing from the other. They're kind of tough. They're kind of leathery. That's literally what leather is, actually, is a very thick stratified squamous epithelium. So, when they wanted to go from one place to another, the epithelia were the most omitted characters. They needed harpoons and machetes and big giant slashing knives, but that would have made the movie take even longer. So, I'll save the rest of my comments for round 3, but I could tell them apart. They had no backstory. Why these people, not others? I don't know. I wanted to see more epithelium. And corpuscle is a dumb word. NT5TM.
Well, thank you, Tony. Epithelium. That's really great. It's a wonderful word to say, just like some famous guy says groceries is a great word to say. Epithelium, groceries. I like that. Okay, next up is Virginia, ND5F. What do you think of our characters from KE5ICX?
Okay, thank you, Tom. Well, I'm with Tony. I was cringing over the overuse of the word corpuscle for almost everything in the movie. I did feel like they were a little sloppy with defining the myriad minor characters in this, in the form of different cells of the body. And I also noted the lack of epithelial barriers. It was rather convenient getting from one place to the next. They did some of that in inner space as well. They were a little more accurate with things, but still, I did think that was kind of sloppy on their part. They did, though, acknowledge the plural sac of the lungs, which I really appreciated. My mom was a medical professional for 25 years, so I know more about the human body than someone who reads very little about biology should know. Anyway, and I'm with Brenda. And this kind of segues into characters. Amazing how little sort of general fundamental knowledge these people seem to have. They seem to be kind of winging it. You know, it's almost like this was, and I guess, well, if you think about it, I guess it was sort of an emergency mission. So it wasn't like they had all the, it was kind of like the movie 2010 where they're like, we need 3 guys to go to Jupiter on a ship built by Russians, you know, who are we going to take? So I guess they just, you know, grabbed some people and, you know, who seemed like the right people for the job, so I guess that might explain it. They just happened to have all this technology to do this. The characters were teleportable, which I appreciated. Not a lot of backstory. I noticed that back then, you could get away with that more than you can now, you know. That people just, they really wanted just strong characters they could tell apart that would fill the sort of slots in the plot. I did appreciate, and I do appreciate in some of these older movies, at first it kind of weirds me out, and then I think about it and I'm like, no, I appreciate it that they'll, you know, they put people in these kind of skin-tight costumes, and you can tell in the older movies that the actors weren't like they are now, where you can tell now that they have to probably go to the gym like, you know, 3 times a day, every day, if they're going to wear an outfit like that. And it's interesting to see people like that in outfits like that in like 60s movies where it didn't seem to be the norm to require a human being who was on screen to, you know, have a godlike physique. So now Raquel Welch, of course, she was beautiful and, you know, but not ridiculous. And I liked her as kind of a strong female scientist kind of character, and how she knew about this laser and all that. That was kind of cool. But yeah, I didn't get a sense of really like each person's, you know, what their kind of hang-up was. You were kind of figuring out who the saboteur was, and like Tony said, or Tom said, not terribly hard. And all of the other characters, the anesthetized, you know, brain surgery, you know, patient, he seemed like he was doing a really good job of just being, you know, still, and he didn't seem to cause too much trouble in the plot. Let's see, all the other people who were running the mission, they seemed fine. And my other favorite minor characters, besides all the corpuscles, were the weird little wiggly radar dishes that were surrounding the guy on the operating table, and they just sort of seemed to just oscillate quickly. The little cheesy radar dishes, I kind of liked them. They made me laugh. So, okay, back to Ned, MV5F.
The little radar dishes, yes, switching, going up and down and left to right. They work rather cute. Okay, very good. Okay, John, you're on deck. KJ5GOT. Hopefully you're still there. You've heard our comments so far. What do you think? Is this a movie that you would want to see? And does it remind you of anything you've seen that you think was pretty good? Maybe a science fiction film that had a similar vibe, or one of those miniaturization, make everybody the size of a pin needle, or you get my drift. What do you think, John? KJ5GOT from KD5ICX.
KJ5GOT, this is John in Dallas. Hopefully you can hear me. I switched out the battery in my unit. This actually reminds me of an episode of Magic School Bus from when I was a kid. I believe they went into a student named Arnold to explain the digestive system, if I remember correctly. It sounds like an interesting movie. I would watch it. I was not able to find out what the movie was this week. I did make an effort to try to watch the movie, but it seems like the Facebook group is defunct, and the W5FC website did not have it on there either. So I wasn't able to find out what the movie was in time for this. And that's all I have to say. KJ5GOT, back to net.
Thank you, John. Thank you for the comments. There's a problem there, and there's a chicken and egg thing going on. I had control of that page, the Facebook page, until I didn't anymore. I think somebody had hacked my account, and Facebook came in and helped me out and took away all of my access under my name. So not only did I lose all of my stuff that I had posted through the years, but I also lost control of the Facebook pages that I had. And while they're still there, there's no moderator. I'd never assigned an alternate moderator. I never thought I'd need one. It was just simply a simple page to list the movies. And that then suddenly became a problem. Now I've got a new account under my name, and I was laying low for a while to see if they would ban my account just because it was me again, and they have not. So I cautiously created a page. And I can't think of the name. I changed the name, but look for Afterglow Movie again. Maybe Afterglow Movie Gang. I'm not sure, but it's Afterglow Movie. Look for that, and that one is now being updated. Unfortunately, I can't delete the old one. There's just no way to do it. And forget customer service. It does not exist. There is not a human being available to help you with a Facebook problem. They do not exist. It's all done automated-wise. I don't know. Maybe they got AI. Whatever it is, there is no customer service. Zero. Zip. You will not get any help. So keep that in mind whenever you start posting any of their personal information or you run into problems. You're not going to get any help from those people. Just my personal opinion as I get my blood pressure goes up with that. So anyway, the other way you can find out what the movie is just jot this down while you're listening, is my email address, which is my call sign, KE5ICX, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, KE5ICX at yahoo.com. Just send me an email and tell me that you would like to be put on the list, and I will add you to the list, and you'll get to whatever the movie is. If you aren't on the net, you'll still get the email the next day, Sunday morning sometime, with the movie name and also a link. We always watch the movies. They're free streaming films, so there's no fee or anything. I make sure that whatever we pick is something that's available for free. So next week's movie, in case you're wondering, is THX 1138, and that's available on archive.org. If you go there, you'll find it. Strangely, I thought it was still, it's not public domain, so I'm not quite sure. It's not the world's greatest copy either. It's an earlier copy, but it's good enough and watchable. That's George Lucas's film. And it has, believe it or not, Donald Pleasance, the bad guy, in this film is also in that one, although he plays a good guy in that one. So that's next week's movie, and that's how you can get the list, and I will send out the link for the new Facebook page that I created earlier this week. Okay, next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, what did you think about characterization from KE5 ICX?
So, WB50ZL. Well, I agree with everybody. I could tell the characters apart. Often I can't. I think it's some kind of a genetic issue that I can't recognize faces unless they're distinct. I often have this problem with movies. But they were interesting characters, attractive enough to be appealing, and not too many pretty boys who are just there for their looks. The girl, there's always a girl, and she's always too dedicated to her job to think of romance. So here comes the inevitable guy that just doesn't understand why she doesn't recognize his irresistibility, and he thinks that if he can just tell her how wrong she is, that she'll fall at his feet. Let's just see this so many times, and often they do. You know, the end of this is the girl falls in love with this character, but that didn't happen this time, which I was kind of glad about. Let's see, characters. I don't know. I just, I thought generally they were appropriate, and I mean, I don't really have any strong feelings other than that. So I guess that's all I have to say about that. Back to net, WB50ZL.
Okie dokie. Well, let's move on to Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, same question to you. What did you think of characterization in our fine film? Fantastic Voyage from 1966.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. I did remember the one other plot hole I forgot, and that was the whole part where they decided to refill their air tank by shoving that pipe that was conveniently that they happen to have into the lungs and letting the lungs fill it. Completely crazy that they could build 150 pounds of pressure it that way. Another scene they could just simplify it saying, well, they had an air pump on board and just need to pump the air out of the lungs. So yeah, that was another weird plot hole. Anyway, back to characters. That's what we're supposed to talk about. I agree with everybody. Very distinguishable. Obviously, well-known actors and actresses. Yeah, I thought the acting was okay. There's what they had. Yeah, we don't know much about any of these people other than, well, we really don't know much about any of them. We know they're doctors, and we had the one guy that I guess was almost like your hero / James Bond style character that could, fix anything. I guess it was keeping an eye on everybody. So yeah, not a lot there in characters, not particularly deep. I guess maybe for this particular action film, maybe we really didn't need it this time. But anyway, now let's tell this part. Back to that, KB9SOK.
Thank you, John. Okay, let's see here. So it's bottom of the list. I'll go ahead and do my usual. Does anyone else out there want to check in and discuss our movies tonight? Fantastic Voyage from 1966. Now's your opportunity. Please come with your call. Okay, hearing none, I'll go ahead and make my comments about characterization. We had, as Tony mentioned, the plug-in characters. I love that Virginia's comment, teleportable. The teleportable characters. She felt that they had actually passed muster on that one, so the teleportables. Yes, everyone looked different enough that you could tell that they were different doctors. We had lots of doctors, plenty of doctors. A paradox over here, a paradox over there, lots of paradoxes. So, at any rate, I didn't find any of them particularly interesting, either the characterization. Malplasians always play Malplasians, as I mentioned earlier. Let's see. Arthur Kennedy, he plays Arthur Kennedy and everything he does. Edmund O'Brien, General Alan Carter. This guy, he was pretty well known. Now, the one guy who was known pretty well and was considered a minor actor, probably until this movie, was a guy named Arthur O'Connell, who played Colonel Donald Reed. He was the operational commander. He was the one that says, go ahead and miniaturize phase 1. And then somebody would say, miniaturize phase 1. He was the guy that gave the order. And then the other guy would shout it to whomever it needed to, just submarine type stuff. He was in a show that was relatively popular. It only ran for 2 seasons, so I think it was called The Second 100 Years, where he plays the son of a much younger fellow. In the show, he gets frozen. His son gets frozen in the Arctic, and then is brought back to life from being frozen, and then he tries to acclimate himself over the 50 years and 40 years that he's lost of his life. So he played that role, and he was sort of the comedic foil of comedy. I think over on ABC, and I don't remember for sure. But he was very popular back then, so he ended up getting this movie gig, I think, because of that role. Your mystery character, if you blink, you might have missed him, but if you look very carefully, one of the miniaturization crew is James Brolin. He looks like he's about 12 years old in this thing. He is in it. I don't think he doesn't even have a speaking role in the thing, but it's James Brolin. Well known from his hints on various movies and television shows, most notably Marcus Welby, MD, which ran for like a decade on television. He plays his younger assistant to Marcus Welby, of course. Let's see, anyone else? Well, Raquel Welch was Raquel Welch in the skin diving suit, so, her role was really important. And yes, the boys enjoyed the scene pulling the whatever it was, the attacking antibody off of her body, making it pro-body, I guess. I don't know, whatever it was. Anyway, yes, there was the giggling and all that during doing that scene, from what I understand. Who knows? Nobody else to speak of per se. Everybody's performance was adequate. They're fine. They're good actors playing two-dimensional, one-dimensional characters. But what else do you expect? Okay, well, with that, we things you can talk about on the special effects. I've got several things I've got to say about it, but I'm going to save my notes until the end. Everyone else, we'll start with Tony, NT5TM. Tony, whatever you want. Talk special effects, talk about music, we can talk about anything we haven't you can revisit any points we've already discussed with any additional comments. So you get the drift. Go ahead from KE5, ICX.
Okay, Tom, thank you. I thought the composer, like everyone else who worked on this movie, meant well. In the context of the time, I probably would have enjoyed this movie a lot more. But now, looking back on it, I'm thinking this music is so melodramatic. I know what white corpuscles look like. I can identify them on microscope slides. I've taken anatomy 101. I don't know. I thought the music was good, but it didn't suit me. Because again, I was supposed to be impressed by the novelty of everything, but I wasn't because I was born too late. Likewise, the visual effects were intense and beautiful, and people were constantly surrounded by these images of things that didn't look very much like erythrocytes, but they were clearly meant to be, and they were like blobs of grease, and they were constantly getting bigger and smaller, and I know I was supposed to be so impressed by that. And I thought, wow, what a good job, except I've seen red blood cells under a microscope, and that's not right. And yes, I loved in your last commentary there that you talked about all the men having to gang up to rip antibodies off of Raquel Welch. Asimov did this much better in his fantastic Voyage 2 novelization of what he thought the script should have been, because when things entered the miniaturization field that the crew is in, they had to go back to their correct size. So yes, antibodies are very big molecules. They're very heavy. They weigh 150,000 kilodaltons. Oh, excuse me, 150,000 daltons, or 150 kDa. So that's 150,000 protons. That's like not that much water even. So he talked about how when people got sucked back into the airlock, that all of the things that were on the outside of them disappeared into a couple of raindrops worth of water. So I really am going to go reread Fantastic Voyage 2, where Isaac Asimov tried to correct all the problems. The music was beautiful. It didn't suit me because I wasn't impressed. The effects, they worked so hard. They showed the tiling of the epithelial cells in the lungs and the blood vessels. But I wasn't impressed because I've actually seen that in real life. I've seen DNA. I've seen antibodies. Those antibodies really weren't very good. But, so I think everyone should see this movie once. They tried so hard. They were just generally wrong. NC5TM, but it was still fun.
Thank you, Tony. But one of the many doctors that were on board the submarine said, well, somebody asked, he says, well, how come it isn't red? He says, well, when it shrunk down this small, this is what it looks like. And he's a doctor, or at least he plays one in a movie. Oh, well, okay. Next up at Virginia, MD5F. Special effects, music, whatever your heart desires. Tell us what you think from KE5 ICS.
Okay, well, I won't be quite as critical because I haven't really, I know generally just from learning what those things would look like. I have not seen them all under a microscope, but I can kind of take myself out of my time frame and imagine how this would have looked to people in the mid-60s who, didn't really know what that stuff was supposed to look like. I did think it was funny that the deoxygenated blood cells were kind of bright blue instead of what they would really be, which is sort of dark purple probably. Anyway, yeah, so I'm okay with what it was for the time, but it was just supposed to be beautiful and kind of awe-inspiring, and there were some aspects of it that were. I did like the mention of the fabulous studio lighting that happened to be on the inside of this guy's body, where in real life it would have just been pitch black, and they would have had to to depend completely on their own lighting from the submarine to see anything at all. So there's that. But the music, I actually appreciated it for the fact that it did represent the time, in that it got a little into the avant-garde. It was trying to be a little bit modern. I even thought the opening credit sequence was kind of interestingly done. It did use a lot of library sound effects, but back then we hadn't seen a million 20th Century Fox movies from the 60s and 70s, so I try to also take myself, kind of put myself in the shoes of the people. But I thought the open credit sequence was kind of interesting. I thought the music was all right. I thought it was at least trying to be interesting and being a little different from the music that you would have in a movie like Spartacus or How the West Was Won or whatever. It was trying to be a little different and science fiction-y, and it did okay. All that having been said, I will reference a movie that I watched, or a film that I watched earlier today on YouTube. I watch it regularly. It is definitely part of science fiction history, even though it was a documentary made by the National Film Board of Canada. It's called Universe. It's black and white. It's the reason I watch it periodically is not only because Douglas Rain is the narrator, which I could listen to his voice all day long, but it's a movie about the nature of the universe, and it's what Stanley Kubrick was inspired by when he was beginning to conceive of the kind of effects he wanted from 2001, and it did inspire him. Before production even went over to England, he was renting space in Manhattan and trying to make these swirly effects with paint and grease and all kinds of weird chemicals, and that's what he used for some of the stuff after the trippy Stargate, and all the weird swirly things. That was effects based on some of the stuff done in Universe, but if you watch Universe, it has a lot more cohesiveness to it, like it's specifically trying to represent things in the universe, and has strikingly good special and visual effects for the time, and that film came out in like 1960. It also has a really great soundtrack. It's got a cool, modern score that is very moody and very kind of foreboding, kind of the way the universe would seem. It's kind of overwhelming sounds. It's got a lot of modern, sounds, and then the way it kind of changes at the end. I won't spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen Universe, but it is free on YouTube, and National Film Board of Canada, Universe. They actually got the film posted on YouTube, and if you haven't seen it, it's a wonderful piece of science fiction history, and it even predates this movie by several years and kind of does a better job at some of the stuff that this movie was doing, and it even kind of does a little better job at some stuff than I think 2001 even did. Don't tell anyone I said that out loud. And Douglas Rain, enough said. Anyway, that's it for me. I thought the music and effects in this were pretty well done. It won Oscars for lots of technical things, several more than 2001 won. 2010 was nominated for about all the same awards. It didn't win any of them. I think it was nominated for about 5 and didn't win a single one, which stinks, because I think it was a lot better than people give it credit for. But I will, as I tried to do a minute ago, get off of my soapbox back to net in V5F.
right. Thank you, Virginia. And yeah, I ditto your comments. I feel the same way about Universe. I've seen that film. I do go back and watch it occasionally over on YouTube. It is a spectacular film. It is wide in scope, and it doesn't kindle a fascination and a wonder of the universe. I don't know what will. And considering the time frame that it was done and the effects that were there and the limited budget that they had, it is fantastic to watch. I can see why Kubrick grappled onto that, and it became his idea and his origins of 2001. It makes perfect sense, and that vibe is carried over in his own film. So I agree very much. Okay, I'm going to John, KJ5GOT. John, you got any final comments or words of wisdom you want to give us about tonight's movie or science fiction in general, miniaturization, sound? I don't know, whatever you want to talk about. You got a recommendation? I'll take those too for a film from KE5 ICX.
Thank you for being here. I hope I have something better to say in the morning. NT5TM.
Well, thank you, Tony. That woke you up. So I was talking to John, KJ5GOT, but he may have went off to bed. I'll try one more time. John, KJ5GOT, are you still there?
KJ5GOT, John in Dallas. Thank you, Tom. I have nothing to add. I appreciate the net, and I enjoyed listening tonight. Thank y'all.
It's sometimes difficult, you know, when you didn't get to see the film or not familiar with it, and then you check in and then you get ignored. I didn't want to do that, and sometimes some of the discussions have really turned interesting when somebody brings up a comment. They haven't seen the film, and they go, well, what about this? And you go, I hadn't thought about that. So it's always good to ask, and sometimes mine for some interesting perspectives from somebody who has not seen our film. So thanks for coming by, John. Don't forget, come back next week. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, your final comments. Go right ahead.
This is WB50ZL, and I'm really at a loss to think of anything more to say. I'm surprised how well I like the movie. Yeah, I mean, it just has so many problems, but I actually did enjoy it, and I wouldn't watch it again necessarily. I'd kind of like to see the sequel. That was not just a few years ago, I think. I don't know anything about it, but I'd just be curious to see a more modern take on this. Maybe I'll look it up and watch it. So, well, okay, there's just no point sitting here stammering. I really don't have anything more to add, so just say good night and enjoyed it. And this is WB50ZL.
Okie doke. Thank you, Brenda, for all your comments this evening. Next up is John, 89SOK. Your final comments, anything you want. Special effects, something from the movie it just came to you now, or something else, whatever you want, from KE5 I6.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, for the time I thought the effects were pretty good. It kind of reminded me of some of the old Doctor Who episodes from the 70s with, they were showing the cheesy seaweed like material for just about everything in multiple places, and you could tell a lot of the stuff was just cloth or so it kind of reminded me of that. But once again, I guess you got to put yourself in the mind of the viewers from 1966. So yeah, I'm sure it was probably pretty good for the time. Obviously a little bit cheap now, of course, but all in all, okay. The music, I was okay with it. I thought it was okay. And I do agree with everybody's kind of final comments. I definitely think this is a good movie to watch one time. But yeah, I don't think this is one of those good viewing. There's not a lot of depth there to go back and or nothing that memorable. But still, it's an okay movie. So anyway, enjoyed it as always. Back to Nat, KB9, that's okay.
Okie dokie. Thank you, Sean. Thanks for your comments this evening. Most appreciated. Okay, I'll give my final parting comments. First off, the music, Leonard Rosenman. There were some comments that said it was pretty, well, somewhat bombastic. This guy's actually can be placed within the silver age, I guess, of motion pictures. There's the golden age, which would be the 40s and 50s. This guy falls into the 50s and 60s, which would be more like the silver age. He did over 130 scores. This guy is no lightweight, been around for a while. The ones that you may remember, not necessarily super A-list films, although there are some, I will say this. East of Eden from 1955, Rebel Without a Cause was another, let's see, a dozen films, Fantastic Voyage in 66, of course, Countdown, a movie that we've seen from 1968. He did two of the Planet of the Apes movies, Beneath and Battle for the Planet of the Apes, 1970 and 73. Same year he did A Man Called Horse. I'm just going through. Here's one where he won an Academy Award. Stanley Kubrick film, Barry Lyndon. Following year, Sybil. The next was Bound for Glory. These are all films. He did Lord of the Rings, but this was the animated one from 1978. He did The Jazz Singer from 1980, and it goes on and on. Sylvia, 1985. And here's one for Star Trek fans. He did the decidedly different score, more lighthearted score for Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, RoboCop 2, and then Levitation was one of his last films in 97, and Jury, I don't know that one, from 2001. So he did a lot of films, and you would probably recognize some of this music if you heard it. Now, let's see, what else did I want to... Oh, I wanted to talk about some of the special effects. I agree, the special effects weren't accurate so much as, we would like them to be. But I did mention last night I was kind of having some fun. This set was on the 20th Century lot, and they had several sets. It was done here in the United States. And on the same studio lot at that same time, Irwin Allen had two shows going on simultaneously. He had Lost in Space that had just begun production, and he had Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Well, what's interesting, in Voyage is now in its second season and going to color. Irwin managed to get and break into the studio set for Voyage to Fantastic Voyage, and he used the brain sequence, the brain set for Voyage to the Bottom of the Lost in Space for the second episode called The Derelict, and you'll see some of this stuff hanging from the ceiling. Those are the brain synapses from Fantastic Voyage. He did this without permission. And then you'll see the scene with the lungs and that. It's altered. It's almost unrecognizable, but if you look in the background, you'll see it. That was used in Jonah, the episode called Jonah and the Whale, which was the season opener for the second season of Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea when it went to color. So those two things were there. It's quite fun to see that sort of thing. There's other things we could talk about, the Irwin Allen thing, but I don't want to digress. Those are the two that are interesting, both and make comparisons yourself if you feel so inclined. You'll see those scenes. Those sets do pop out a little bit when you do see them. All right, next week's film is, at popular request, PHX 1138 by George Lucas. We will be watching the theatrical version. There were two versions of the film. One was his student film that he got with a grade. You can see that one. I think it's about 30 minutes long. And then the theatrical version, which I believe was backed by Francis Ford Coppola. He fronted the money for a widescreen version of the film. And with Robert Duvall and Donald Pleasance, they're both in it. So two guys that did television and movies around that time. So I hope you get a chance to see it. I will send out the links to the and then it starts doing weird things with the audio when that happens. So at any rate, that will be next week's movie, THX 1138, I think from 1970, I think, is when it came out. So, till next time, this is KE5 ICX now clear. See y'all next week. This is